big part of my practice. These talk pieces. My favorite comedian is David Anton. Okay, so I'm in Kuzu Daddy's living room. He's in the other room. This could be weird. Maybe he'll come in. He's highly entertaining and an amazing human being. So if he comes in, it'll only be dynamite. Yeah, so I've got a TV now. This is my YouTube command center. This is the screening room that I live in here in Midwood, uh, deep Brooklyn. This is the real Brooklyn. This guy was telling me last night, Larry. He was telling me when he was a kid, he met this guy. He went to this guy's house. I forget why. His family was repair people. I forget what it was. This guy had huge hands. He's like, that guy was Gil Hodges. It was Gil Hodges. I mean, I don't know exactly who Gil Hodges is, but I know he's some kind of legendary New York baseball. I think he was manager of the Yankees, and I thought he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, but I'm not sure. But that's the Brooklyn that we're in. We're in Brooklyn Dodgers, Brooklyn. We're deep in it here. We went to the ShopRite last night on McDonald Avenue. Oh, it's the most lit. It is a utopia, actually. It's a perfect. It felt like perfectly international. It really felt like kind of the embodiment. You know, when they say Brooklyn is like, I don't know, I think more people from more places in the world live in Brooklyn or something like that than anywhere else. You felt it was all represented at the ShopRite last night. This grocery store is 24/7. And they sell practically everything. I mean, it's not a Walmart. It's not even really like as good as like any grocery store in the Midwest, which are all like these unbelievable kind of like palatial palaces of abundance and just like fruitful plenty and wealth. But the ShopRite is dope as hell. I recommend it. It felt like California. This part of Brooklyn weirdly feels because the buildings aren't as tall. There's actual houses with yards and shit pretty much everywhere. People have cars, but it's like it's still kind of dense and it's still kind of like the fucking grocery store had like a parking garage underneath that we like parked in the parking garage and like took the elevator. And the elevator's all like gross and like that's the real Brooklyn. And it was like perfectly, I mean, there were people from all over the world. There were Hasidic people. There were, I mean, so it's a Hasidic neighborhood, largely Midwood, which is cool. I think Passover's coming up. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out. Everything will be closed or it's beautiful. It's beautiful out here. It's an amazing, you know, all of the kind of gentrified parts of Brooklyn are increasingly scraped, kind of clean of the kind of like interesting, you know, a lot of it is ethnic, kind of like locality and diversity that makes New York interesting. You know, Manhattan, of course, and even, you know, Williamsburg, the kind of north part of Brooklyn, the shore along Manhattan. That's the kind of, you know, and then as it goes out, the J train, that's the kind of white people gentrifier Brooklyn, the international plutocracy, the global plutocracy, the children of the global plutocracy, the gentrified parts of Brooklyn. You know, they largely, I would say, lack. When I first moved to Park Slope in 2011, there were still kind of like dollar stores. Uh, it was still kind of like a little bit funky. There was Jackie's Fifth Amendment. You know, there was those old kind of like real local flavor, and all that shit was gone, replaced by two or three different kind of like gentrifier taco stand or whatever new craft beer bar or whatever the hell it was. Whereas out here, we were driving home, there was this place called Starlight Lounge. That looked pretty amazing. And I'm looking in, I'm like, is it a bunch of hipsters? Who's in there? And it's like a bunch of old, I don't know, it feels like Goodfellas or something. It looks like a bunch of old plumbers or something in there drinking just. So, I don't know. It's an adventure. We're way the fuck out on the Q train. This is my most recent video. I felt it was imperative to go live. I really, honestly, going live has been kind of the most successful part of what I've been doing. And I think it's the truest thing to what I want to do. I would like to be able to get up, and this is something I want to explore. I feel like maybe I've got enough goodwill. And to be honest, I feel like I could maybe get a big enough audience. I want to do a talk piece live. I want to do like a 2 hour. I want to do a live stream live. I want to do a live stream. I want to do a live stream maybe in the Red Room. I feel like I could maybe set that up and get enough people from the open mic. Enough people have probably seen my live stream. And enough people from the open mic kind of like, I don't know. It's a friendly kind of community. They might be curious to just see. I mean, I love the open mic, and it is like kind of its own work in a way, and it's a utopic vision, I suppose, or I don't know. It is like political. I've been, I don't know. Things feel political recently. I've been kind of energized talking to Philip Marinovich. Shout out to Philip, our guru. Philip's out there. We love Philip. But there he is. Look, he's magic. He just appeared. See, I spoke his name 3 times. He appeared. He's magic. He's our guru. He's the Maharishi. We sit at his feet and we learn. He just talks by the Bodhisattva tree, by the suitcase tree. And he gives us suitcases of knowledge, wisdom, mind. And it's been, totally kind of awakening, I would say. Not that, my work is always political, but I try not to, like, hassle anybody about it, necessarily. The way that I make my books and doing an open mic is definitely a political, democratic, that is democracy in action, letting everybody talk. It's like a community meeting. It's like a town hall. Come out and just sound your truth. Here's an open mic, one of the beautiful Wordshed NYC, which is this Sunday. I'm going to try to make it out to that. My schedule is kind of full this week. I've been busy this week. I'm working. I had class. And the open mic, of course. But, yeah, Philip definitely makes it a priority to be political in an important way, I feel like. He can't not be because of his life and just what, has happened. And so it's a big, and it's part of the cosmology and the totality of our experience, and it's an important part. Politics is a dirty word, but it's something you can't really divorce yourself from. I mean, it's really just about how we make decisions socially and as a group. And so it is important. Oh my God. I tried to pay for weed with fake Easy Paradise money. Kuzu Daddy brought these fake $100 bills to the open mic, and we made it rain. There's me. That's Crash Davis. Minor league legend. And and there's Nuke Lelouch right there. Or maybe she's Crash Davis. I'm Nuke Lelouch. I throw wild pitches. That's my problem. I grip it and rip it. It's all or nothing at all. Yeah, so I don't know. I've been emphasizing the political. I was just watching this documentary about, wealth, how all the rich people are stealing all our wealth, and wealth inequality, and the stock market and all that. That's why I called it credit. Well, that's all in the air right now, right? Because this bank failed, this SVB, Silicon Valley Bank. And, in New York, it's unavoidable. The international plutocracy is all around us, and they have been. The whole time I've been here, New York is a playground for the international plutocracy, which is just the wealthy people from all over the world. Diplomats, whatever, business people people who can afford to travel from New York to Paris to London to Mumbai to Singapore to Tokyo to Hong Kong to wherever, Rio, uh, Tel Aviv, Johannesburg, Moscow, Korea, you know, the international, Australia, the international elite, the 1%, the people who fly private, I mean, or just the people who can afford to have that lifestyle. There's not a lot of people from where I come from that are necessarily a part of that. You know, Columbus is not, you know, the international 1% are not clamoring necessarily to gain a foothold in Columbus, Ohio, per se. Although they're there, you know, Epstein and friends. Epstein and friends and company. We know that that was their little Shangri-La off the beaten path. But anyway, we won't get into the fact that Columbus is the third highest sex trafficking city in the country. We won't get into that right now. That's a separate vlog. We vlogged about it in the past. Watch the Alex Jones InfoWars. No, I'm not Alex Jones. I'm the anti-Alex Jones. I was rewatching Slacker the other day because Slacker was hugely, hugely important to, and Waking Life, of course. I didn't really see Slacker until, I don't even know the first time I saw it. Probably the Criterion when I bought it. But I loved It's Impossible How to Learn How to Plow from reading books. That's like one of my favorite movies. And that was, both of those were hugely influential on Scenes from a Life and when I was starting it. But it was weird to me how much Slacker is about. It's sort of paranoid about the government. You know, a lot of it's about conspiracy theories, the JFK assassination, aliens. It's a lot like Alex Jones. Like, you could put Alex Jones in Slacker. In fact, I'm not even sure Alex Jones is not in Slacker. Like, he's from Austin, right? He could totally be one of the monologuists. The camera could dolly over, and Alex Jones is just ranting about Hillary and the globalists. And the UFOs and the aliens and Biden and Joe Rogan, just come live here and we'll make Slacker and we'll podcast. And there's this one part of Slacker where, like, literally, and I thought this was weird when I saw it, you know, the first time. The camera, like, it's very prominent in the shot, is like there's this huge billboard for Ron Paul. And I'm like, does Richard Linklater think Ron Paul is is Linklater a secret libertarian? Is he a secret, like, objectivist or something? Like, you know, if they made a reboot, where's Slacker 2? You know, they did Clerks 3, for Christ's sake. You haven't cashed in on a Slacker sequel yet? I mean, I think we need to revisit. We'll get Rand Paul for Slacker 2. So, I don't know. Is that just a Texas thing? You know, I'm not... Okay, so the big government thing, right? There's a lot of discussion about, you know, the deficit, right? Like, they have to raise the fucking cap or whatever right now. The fucking Republicans are stalling because they don't want to raise this debt ceiling. It's all theater. It's all political theater. And, it's bullshit. They don't give a fuck. If they really cared about paying back the deficit, they would tax some of these fucking rich people because that's where the money goes. You know, that's where all of the wealth is. These rich people are just hoarding it. They're chartering helicopters. Sofia Coppola's daughter is chartering a helicopter to go see her friend in Maryland with her parents' credit card. The guy from Air or whatever the fuck. Or is he in Phoenix? He's some French rock star. French rock stars are the sleaziest. They're the worst. I mean, they're the worst kind. Except Johnny Hallyday. I like Johnny Hallyday. But give me a break with the French rock stars. Come on. It's American music, all right? It's American music. It's hillbilly music. Well, anyway, big government is not the problem. The problem is That's what this documentary was about, is the big business, the big corporations, Exxon, whatever, Amazon. Things just, our culture is becoming increasingly homogenized, blandified, smoothed over. The future is smoothed over, I guess. It's here. The 20th century of kind of like somewhat local idiosyncratic, kind of handmade quality. We used to make things, in America they used to make things, and it was quality, the tools, the craftsmanship, the old cars and shit. And now we just make social media posts and we live stream. Everything we make is evaporated air. It's invisible. It's the millennial contribution was apps and social media. That was our big rock and roll. Social media was our rock and roll. It's like a clinically depressed, isolated, alienated. Look at this. I'm talking to a fucking screen right now. I'm talking to blue light, and hopefully somewhere in the future aliens will see this, or this is the which episode is this? This is the I was couch surfing hard at this point. Here's me at Rallies or Checkers. I'm sorry, I keep calling it Rallies. It's Checkers. It's my favorite restaurant. So this is when I was in Brownsville type, Crown Heights, I guess, or is that Bed-Stuy? Halsey, what is this? Halsey stop? And here I am in Checkers. Oh my God, I wish I could go back. $4. I couldn't, this is the best deal in New York. Let me just tell you, go to Checkers, get the chicken bites and fries. It's $4.40. Whew. It is delicious. It's filling. It was strangely agreeable to my body. I didn't have any bad reaction to that at all. I don't know. Do I want to harp on political stuff? To me, it's class. It's economic. The international global plutocracy that just sort of owns all of these cities. That's why we see Russian oligarchs buying all these condos and shit in New York. These super talls. People just parking their money. They come here for a little while. That's my line about Manhattan, a pied-a-terre for the whole world. That's what that's about. Now everybody in the whole world can have an apartment in Manhattan and just sort of jet in, jet out at their convenience. They don't actually have to live here. And that's why there's no local culture, or very little of it. It's dying out in Manhattan in particular. Whereas something like out here, people actually live here, and like there is a sense of community, and definitely a local flavor with the kosher pizzerias. There's a lot of sushi. Well, maybe not a lot, but there's some. It's like, you have to understand, it's like every grocery store is like is kosher, and that's like the emphasis. It's like, which is cool. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that is the I don't even know if there is like, there's no, the one little grocery store that I found is sort of like, it's got gluten-free stuff and it's got kind of deals on it. But a lot of the gluten-free stuff overlaps with kosher because it's like unleavened bread, to be honest. Flat, I think. I mean, I could be way wrong about this. This is just part of my diary, my live journal about my recent experience. Here's System Lord at last month's Dime show. So I haven't made a vlog. This ends March 5th. It's, March 24th or something? So I've got 20 days backlog. But I've just been all over the place. I've been really surfing the fuck out of the subway and the couch. And I'm up in Manhattan Valley some days. which is the, halfway up Manhattan or whatever. And then I'm way out here in Brooklyn other days on an air mattress in the living room with Kuzu Daddy. And it's rock and roll as hell. We wake up at noon. We don't get out of, I mean, I don't know. It's like, it takes a long time. I mean, the train was not a factor in my life, right? While I lived in that apartment in Chelsea, I walked everywhere. I literally barely got on the train for 2 years, which is a completely different experience. And I'm trying to embrace the train. There's positive aspects of the train. The train is like a monastery. It's a place for study, quiet contemplation, and meditation. I think that's increasingly hard to come by. In fact, the train is about the only place I can read with any kind of like sustained concentration. If I'm in the house, I'll be reading while I'm doing other stuff. But like on the train, you're kind of forced. Like, my phone broke. That's one reason why I'm in live streaming. My battery was severely degraded. I took it to the Apple store in Soho 3 times in 1 week. And they fixed it for free. I couldn't believe it. It was under warranty. So people like to talk trash about Apple products. I don't know why, but they fixed my phone for free. And now I'm back on the live stream, baby. I'm back. There's my... there's me staying in Brownsville. That's Greta's wonderful apartment. Thank you, Greta. Shout out to Greta, that Valium housewife, for the amazing flyers. She's been sending me just amazing flyers, so I've been using those. It's a wonderful little room, the way it's like this promontory. It's got windows on 3 sides, and it kind of juts out. It's about decay, and it's about the vines growing over. That's what the sublime is, okay? The sublime is abandonment and disuse. I was reading this Shelley. There's a really good Twitter account, the Romanticism blog, and they have great information about the Romantics. I recommend them. And they were saying Shelley, these lines he had were about, I forget where it was, someplace in Italy or some fucking thing. And what he loved about it was that it was abandoned. He was talking about the tangled vines kind of growing over and all that. It's like that was the sublime, the Lake District, Tintern Abbey was all this abandoned, kind of decayed ruins. And that's what they thought was dark and kind of overpowering about it. The kind of broken incompleteness, the fragmentariness, the kind of phantom. And so that's something that New York had, right, in the 70s when the whole punk whatever poetry thing happened. And right now, I mean, when I first lived in Park Slope, there was some sense of that. The Gowanus Canal, that Whole Foods hadn't been put in there, and there was still like that Bat Cave, that big Ken Tile Floor sign. So there was some sense, like I said, dollar stores. It was a little bit empty and abandoned. It felt like in disrepair. The house, right, the Slooge. When I moved in, the backyard, nobody even hardly went back there. It was just like all this old furniture just sitting there, and that kind of sublime ruin, kind of decay. Things just kind of left, and then nature sort of taking them back a little bit. And the beauty of that. And I talk about this a little bit in my LA episode from 2015. There's an LA episode called Heat, where I'm down by the LA River. The LA River is like, has that vibe, where it's just like a tangle kind of grown over. LA still had a little bit of that, when Jack lived there, definitely. LA was still kind of cheap and gritty. But all of these places, I mean, the thing is, it's not just New York, it's not just LA, it's not just San Francisco, it's everywhere. It's Columbus, Ohio, where I come from. The same shit happened there over the last decade, because this is the way that we've been swindled, and our society has been planned by property developers, by finance people. Like they said, they're not building low-cost housing. They're building condos for rich people. They're not building infrastructure. They're not building roads, and they're not fixing the infrastructure. They're building super talls. Those are the engineering marvels, these kind of private empires of wealth. That's all stolen, and it's all killing the environment. You know, these Russian oligarchs, the reason why they make so much fucking money is because the oil drilling they do is incredibly bad for the environment, and they don't give a fuck. They want the shit to melt so they can have another coast. If the North Pole melts, it'll be great for Russia, because then they'll have a shipping lane where they can go to fucking Canada and shit. And they'll have shoreline. They want the shit to melt. And then they get super talls out of it too. And so we've been kind of taught over the last 20, 30 years that it's all about private enterprise, entrepreneurship. The Ayn Rand kind of objectivist doctrine just runs everything. Deregulate, cut taxes, starve the government. Everything should be privatized, including the roads, including the parking meters. It should all be a business. We pay for it based on how much we use it and all this kind of shit. Cashless. Just put a fucking, put a chip in our pocket and we'll just be charged wirelessly everywhere we go. Touchless. It'll just be completely touchless. We'll just send a bill to your account. This is like the fucking world that we live in. We don't live in a fucking, they're not building things for everybody. It's not, but it's everywhere. Like I was saying, it's not just New York, it's Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio used to be, the thing that was good about it was cheap to live there. The cost of living was low. It wasn't necessarily everybody's, like, number one tourist destination. I think that part of the economy and that part of the hype, especially in New York, but maybe everywhere. I mean, just like the way that experiences are the only thing we can purchase. And so millennials' lives are all about like Instagramming experiences, traveling, food. Everything's a tourist destination now. It's like, okay, we can't buy a house, but we can go to fucking Fort Lauderdale or Oxford, Mississippi, or fucking Sausalito, or I don't know, Boston. You can travel. But it's like all of these places have become just like industries of themselves. They're not actually local cultures. They're just kind of like the people who have the money to go there and they eat in the restaurants and they go to jukebox musicals. There's no theater, It's all just fucking Glee Club. It's all Wicked and shit like that, or not that Wicked's bad, but they're theme park rides. Because everything is like tourism. Because people have been alienated from their own experience. Everything is McDonald's. You're participating in the same corporate brands even as you're traveling. It's like, okay, we're in Times Square, but we're eating at fucking Applebee's. We're eating at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. But we're in Times Square. Let's take pictures. That's where TRL was. But now it's just like a fucking Gap store or the fucking Hershey flagship amusement theme park store, the M&M store, whatever the fuck it is. It's like the corporate culture has supplanted the local culture by just taking all of the resources. These things could just as easily belong to a local creative mind, and they could be individual. You know what I mean? It could be different stuff everywhere you go. Now we visit like the sites where things were, right? It's like we go to Savannah, Georgia or whatever, and it's like, that's where the fucking Midnight of Garden and Good, or, whatever, Flannery O'Connor, I don't know what the fuck. But it's like, it doesn't have the funky, or the places that are like that have to institutionalize themselves, and they just are able to kind of persist. On their own kind of legacy. You know, we're so, and it's boomer, right? The boomers are just like enforcing their own legend endlessly. So, you know, this Aiden Watson said the other day, McDougal Street is, what did he say? It's like the Six Flags of Bob Dylan or something like that. So it was something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but it's like, I mean, yeah, it's they allow it to kind of be what it is, and I guess, you know, the Comedy Cellar is a big part of the reason why. But like, look, the Cafe Wall is still there, but it's just like it's a simulacrum of its former self. It's not like the place where all the hobo bards go or whatever and sleep on the floor. It's like they're charging tourists $40, $60 2-drink minimum, so they can pay their exorbitant rent. And it's because there's corporate landlords, and now these venture capitalist firms are really interested in property and real estate and buying up tons of fucking rental properties and shit. The algorithm is deciding how much things should cost rather than the vibe or just like a handshake. The market, the free market. Oh, this is the other thing, right? They want to ban TikTok. This is also political theater. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know exactly what they think China is gonna do with this data, or how they think China is mining shit. From what I've seen, TikTok probably uses like less of your fucking personal data, other than just like it sees what you watch and like it sees what you film. Like, it's not like Facebook where you're continually like pumping in like pictures of yourself, all your communication with like your family. They own your messaging. You know, like Facebook really owns your fucking like personal correspondence, and they really, or Instagram kind of is the same thing. If it's not on one, it's on the other. TikTok, all it does is like you watch videos on it. You might post videos on it, but you're not like talking to your fucking friends from college or your fucking mom or something, like, or everybody you know. It's like, it feels like, you know, part of the anti-China. They don't want China to sort of like be better than us. Here's my personal experience with TikTok. I know everybody's dying to know. I haven't used it in like a year, basically, because I forgot my password and I couldn't get back in. I was like using it every day, like a lot. I was on it, and here's why. Because to be honest, it was just better than the other apps. They actually gave you what you wanted. The other apps are using the algorithm, whatever the fuck that means. The algorithm just means they decide what you see. Whatever they want you to see, that's the algorithm. We program the algorithm to put these targeted ads and like these things that are emotionally triggering to you. That's what Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, frankly, for that matter. They don't show you what you want to see. They show you, hey, there's these topics that thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people have aggregated around, so we're going to promote that. Or, to be honest, I think there's some kind of money. There's dark money involved. That's why they're pushing Jordan Peterson videos. That's why they're pushing all this toxic right-wing content when there's a lot of diversity of content on YouTube. They certainly aren't pumping my videos out to hundreds of thousands of fucking phones like Jordan Peterson shit, which they should. I should be like the fucking Russell Brand. But no. The people who watch my show like it. They think it's good. I get positive feedback on it pretty regularly. Like I said, it's kind of, sort of the most effective thing I do, I think, is the live streams, actually. It's what I like doing, sort of, in a way. I wish I could just do this on stage every night. I wish I could just talk for 2 hours about whatever. The problem is these comedians are writing jokes. You just talk. You're already funny. Just get high and talk and free associate, man. Just fucking free associate and collage. What the fuck was I talking about? I was talking... We were definitely talking about privatization. Oh, TikTok, right? So yeah, YouTube is clearly trying to push certain things on you. I don't know why. Probably because they have money. People are giving them money to fucking fix the algorithm. Like it's fucking baseball, or they want to... Of course they're influencing algorithm. Of course they are. Of course they're fucking... Am I getting a fax? I think I'm getting a fax. We might have a fax coming in, everybody. Here from Scenes from a Life, Rotcore World Headquarters in Midwood, Brooklyn. The last real fucking neighborhood. Sorry, it's my landline. It's very busy here. My agent's calling. So anyway, when I got on TikTok, the reason why I started watching it... Yeah, there's my fax. That's the government. They heard me talking about TikTok and they had to fucking... See, I'm used to this. I did this for a year. I lived out of a suitcase in a living room, live streaming with a fucking TV playing YouTube videos for an entire year, okay? This is nothing new to me. Living in Chelsea like a human being in a 2-bedroom apartment, that was what was new. Everybody my generation has been forced to live in some kind of peripheral extremity with 7 roommates for $1,000 a month because the boomers and their fax machines own everything. The best job I think you can get as a poor person is a super, because you get to live in the building for free and you get paid. And like everybody pays rent. Even rich people have to pay for where they live. So that's pretty special. That's what I'm going for in the new year. Anyway, my fax came through. So back to... I hope this isn't muted. That would really suck. It probably isn't, but who knows. Maybe I can I put myself on this TV? Hold on, let me just try to do that real fast. Can I live stream what I'm live streaming? I just need to... Yeah, here we go. Let me just see real quick. Am I going to get feedback if I do this? You're looking at now. What was then was happening now. We missed it. When? Just now. When will then be now? Soon. Oh, why are you not working? It won't... It can't... It's having an ice cream headache. It's having an aneurysm. It can't... It's going to eat itself. It can't handle it. And obviously, it can't perform this operation. Are you watching? Can you hear me? There we go. All right, okay, so I'm getting sound. Okay. Well, let's just leave this on for a second. This will be kind of funny. The infinite... Here we go. Now we're talking. Now we're postmodern, everybody. Now we're meta as fuck. There we go. I'm going into the... Okay, anyway, yeah, now we got viewers. Check it out. I've got a monitor. I've got an in-studio monitor here, so look out. I can reference visually whatever I'm talking about. But, yeah, I just wanted to test it to make sure the picture was working. I'm talking about TikTok, okay, and how the United States government is trying to unconstitutionally ban... It's free speech, right? I mean, you can't... You want to talk about the free market. They can't ban a fucking company. First of all, if they're using it to spy on us, I think they already have the information, because TikTok knows more about me than I know about myself. TikTok was showing me things that was like, We know about your childhood. They've probably been spying on us with fucking Nintendos and shit since we were, I know that's not Chinese, but like, since we were children. Like, TikTok was showing me things that was like, we know about like your pre-memory in a way that you don't even understand. And it, to be honest, like, why I liked it and why I think it, okay, I don't necessarily want to go on the record as being like super pro TikTok or like super positive about it. I'm not the most paranoid person about internet security shit. I mean, I don't want people stealing my money or my identity or anything like that, but like, whether or not they have my data, I wish I got paid for that. I think it would be ethical for them, since that seems to be like the most valuable fucking thing and the thing they're most interested in. I think they should pay us for our content, actually. I don't think we should have to have like some big audience. I think like they're stealing from us right now. YouTube, I've pumped so much free content and so much personal information in. Look, if they wanted to spy on me, my YouTube page is way more dishy. Okay? Like, my YouTube page, like, is my TikTok. What's on your fucking TikTok? Like, a bunch of fucking, like, meme videos, and I was watching a lot of, to be honest, I thought TikTok was an incredible educational tool. TikTok would show, it would go right to the meat. It would go right to the fillet of the meat, where it was like, we're going to cut all the bullshit out of the YouTube video and show you like the 2 minutes that like you've been looking for, and is like going to inform you about some topic you're interested in, or is just going to like change your life or edify. Plus, it was weirdly local. You know, living in Manhattan, a lot of the shit I saw on TikTok was like people who lived in Manhattan talking about like neighborhoods and shit. Talking about like, oh, we're going to fucking Justin Thoreau, whatever that bar is, Sonny's, or what's that bar on Christie Street? Or the dude from Secession. It was all like Jeremy Strong, like Thirst. Because it was super local. It was just like people who were addicted to the crack of TikTok in New York. And, you know, to be honest, a lot of people were making a living off of it, I think. A lot of the people who it felt like moved into Manhattan after the pandemic, it did feel like they were like influencers or something. Or like TikTok fucking, like that was their job. And so like, that's the market too. They're creating jobs. What's wrong with that? I mean, 20-year-olds can make millions of dollars and, you know, swat each other and spend it obnoxiously on drugs or whatever the fuck they're into, you know, whatever 20-year-old are concerned with. But okay, so one of the things I was watching a lot of on TikTok was like urban planning type videos, and just like videos about kind of like why things are designed the way they design. There's this one guy, I forget what his name is, but he talked about like the tolls, right? The tolls to get into the city, and why they don't build more old beautiful houses and shit like this, why they aren't developing, you know, like the way that they should develop in Manhattan. If they wanted to make it affordable for people to live in, they would have to build more houses, which means they would have to build taller fucking buildings. A lot of the zoning in Soho in the Village is against that. You can't build tall buildings there because they want to keep it kind of normal sized. And that, I understand that. I respect that. This is the kind of shit that they talk about like in a fucking TikTok video. You know, this guy's just some dude at Columbia who's like an urban planning or city planning student or something. And so it's like, he's just some guy. He's not, you know, on NBC Nightly News or something. And it is this sort of niche topic. You know, TikTok would find that stuff that you were interested in, and it would kind of like, it would give you things that like you might want to see. It seems to me like all the other apps are trying to push their own agenda. They want to show you, like YouTube wants to show you Norm Macdonald videos for some reason, okay? Norm Macdonald is funny. There's a lot of fucking funny comedians. They're not pushing Dennis Miller videos on me. They're not pushing fucking Kevin Meaney videos on me. They're not even pushing Mark Maron videos on me. To be honest, I'm a Maron guy. Clearly. Clearly. You know, like I would probably get more hooked if they want to push something on me, if they want to show me something that I might actually enjoy. Norm is okay, don't get me wrong, but there's some kind of norm industrial complex on YouTube that I don't quite understand. It's also like Louis, right? Like Louis on all these fucking podcasts now, and like they want to push all this. It's slightly right wing, it's slightly macho, it's slightly Christian conservative. Well, Louis now is sort of a reactionary, anti woke, kind of just like canceled kind of representative. He's sort of having this comeback that is largely taking place on YouTube, I feel like. But it just TikTok kind of overly polices the videos, I thought, because they know a lot of kids are watching TikTok. I mean, that's not necessarily good. I would say that the problem with TikTok is more like that it's too addictive. I mean, it was literally just like liquefying hours of my life. You know, like I was spending like 4 to 6 hours a day literally just watching fucking TikTok videos, but like it felt like it was worth it. To be honest, I felt like it was maybe the most contemporary way to consume content. Our experience is already so fragmented and like okay, cool. I'm getting a text here. Our experience is already so fragmented. When you're watching a movie, when you're binge watching shit, you're probably on your phone, you're probably bouncing around. I embrace that kind of shit about modern experience, the multitasking of consciousness and having multiple things, multiple tabs open. I think that's the frontier. Get all the videos open at once. When you're at the open mic, watch YouTube videos on your phone. Put headphones in, but like, you know, having both those experiences at once, it's like you could have, maybe that's psychedelic, but like you can kind of tune into this, you can grab things from this, you can grab things from this. You with TikTok, there is just like an instant kind of fun size. We're just gonna inject the distilled kind of essence of this, rather than like YouTube wants you to watch long form podcasts or kind of long form. I'm into that too. Don't get me wrong, but it was weird. I've listened to a lot of podcasts trying to like learn things, and I felt like I learned way more watching TikTok. That probably sounds crazy. I think TikTok understood that about me, and it knew that I probably wanted to use it for that purpose. Plus, it also felt like, and maybe this was just a kind of bribery that they give you, but like I was definitely getting way more views on TikTok than anything else. Like I would read my poems on TikTok and I'd get 50 likes or something, or like 1,000 views or something. It's like I literally have no views on YouTube. I mean, right now 2 people are watching my fucking live stream, and that's like unbelievable. That's like, I'm nervous because that's such a huge audience. If 2 people were at the open mic, or at an open mic I was at, or a show I was performing at, it would be like, you wouldn't even be nervous at all, because you'd be like, there's no offense. I mean, thank you for watching. But that's what I'm saying. It's like YouTube buries me. Am I shadow banned? What did I do? Like, the most, you know, maybe I'll get 40 views on a vlog. Maybe. And on my live streams, maybe I'll get 50 views or 60 views. On an open mic, if it's like a really hot video, maybe over 100 people will watch it. Like, come on, YouTube. Well, how the fuck does Theo Vaughn have 500,000 views on every goddamn video? Or Tim Dillon. All right, maybe I should put something else on in the background. That was fun, though, wasn't it, everybody? Should we play with it more? Or... This is something I'll probably be live streaming from Kuzu Daddy's living room in Midwood. This will be my new studio. So you know, we'll be playing YouTube videos in the background here on the multiple open tabs. This is what I'm saying. If you get bored with me, you can watch the background. And let's go all the way back to 2021. Let's see what this video is about, huh? Oh, wow. This is the Frankly Fabulous video diary. See, people don't even know about Frankly Fabulous. This is when I was just... Oh, my apartment. I don't even know if I can put this on. It's going to be too depressing. Let's see what else we got. We're channel surfing here. Okay, I got Amy Grant, Baby Baby. You like that song? Oh, see, I turned off the fucking. I got Jim Carrey stand-up comedy. See, I'm doing a. Here, I'll put this on. This is the documentary I was watching about the global rich and the super elite. I'm doing an experimental comedy set next Tuesday, or this coming Tuesday, rather, at the Dime Show at Bar Freda, sometime between 9 and 11 p.m. I'm doing 8 minutes of comedy. So if you want to see my live stand-up comedy, I'll be at Bar Freda. It's basically free to get in. It's 10 cents. Should I do a gummy? Maybe I'll do a gummy. I think we're about halfway, so it's time to celebrate with a gummy. I lost both my viewers. See what happens? YouTube's burying me. I'm shadow banned as fuck. TikTok wouldn't treat me this way. TikTok seems like it's trying to encourage me to get an audience. So, I would say the problem with TikTok and the problem that these companies have is that it's just better. It's giving the people what they actually want, which is what a fucking business is supposed to do. Our world has been turned upside down over the last 40 years. This guy's awesome, Louis Lapham of Lapham's Quarterly. This dude is spouting fire in this. Look him up. The last 40 years, the companies, they don't serve us anymore. They don't serve the customer. They serve the shareholder. It's not about making a good product. It's about their bottom line and stock buybacks. And big bonuses for their executives and raising the executive salaries and shit like that. It's all about the stock market. It's the first thing we should do is just get rid of the fucking stock market. It's all devilry and hypnosis, and it's mess, hypnotism. Anyway, should I talk about my personal life? Maybe I'll read a little bit. I don't know. So I'm in this workshop. It's great. I've been writing these shorter things because the workshop is kind of like encouraging kind of shorter pieces. I don't know. What else? I mean, I don't want to harp on political stuff if people don't want to hear about it. But it is in the fucking news right now as far as like these banks are failing. It does feel like the economy is sort of like having this weird kind of heart episode. And you know, all this wealth is created at the expense of the natural environment, and it's not even freely distributed amongst the human beings. It's just the slave masters and the 1% and the people who own the cops. I've been watching a lot of movies recently. I put on World Trade Center with Nicolas Cage. Holy shit. That is probably one of the most nightmarish movies I've ever seen. It's literally like, it feels like a real nightmare. What's that kind of like nightmare where like you can't move, or like you're afraid that you can't move and like you're awake, but like that's what World Trade Center felt like. It felt like this kind of night terror, paranoid, I mean, it's dark. It's a dark movie. I guess that's not a surprise. It's really told from the point of view of the police officers. It's just Nicolas Cage. It's with him all day. There's no footage really, you know, it stays with that character pretty much. I mean, it jumps around to like his family and stuff, but it's not about like George Bush and fucking Bin Laden and shit. It's really about this person's day or what. I only watched the first hour or so. I mean, it was just too grim. I thought it would be. I don't even know what I thought, but I always see it like they sell it like Walmart and shit. It's like who's buying fucking the World Trade Center? I guess the same guy who has the American flag mural of the Twin Towers in his Ford F-150 rear window. That's the guy who buys the World Trade Center DVD at Walmart. But it was not funny. And to be honest, I don't know. Like 9/11 has been such a weird, like huge part of my life, and especially living in New York and sort of the after echoes and like being so devoted to New York, my life has been like really some kind of weird obsession with New York for some reason, to the detriment of like practically everything else. And I guess because it's the biggest gathering of people, but I don't know. I mean, I'm ready to forget. I'm ready to move on. Or at least from 9/11, but it's such a, obviously it's such a over kind of arching looming thing here, and talking to these, so we went out after class the other night, and a lot of poets who've lived in New York before 9/11 and sort of around that time, we're talking about a little bit, and it was just like, I mean, that was sort of like the big massive pivotal moment, I would say. The city died or whatever. It was over sort of before that. But I think 9/11, not only in the grand scheme of like obviously the United States in our entire lives. I mean, it felt like there was a hippie vibe to things in the 80s and the 90s. In spite of Ronald Reagan, that after 9/11, it really did feel like the tone of our lives became more kind of chromatic, more kind of steel, in security state, more glass. Everything became glass and kind of security. Everything became about security. The whole world just feels like some kind of weird mausoleum airport. Oh, Sarah. Hey, Sarah, what's up? Thank you for watching. R.I.P. Wayne Shorter. I've been trying to get into Wayne Shorter. Yeah, and so, obviously it changed our entire lives, and we're still living in that kind of like, I feel like, traumatic PTSD, security, paranoia. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Wayne Shorter. So, like, there's got to be a way out of this. There's got to be a way out of this 9/11, like, just like, party. I mean, it ruined the party. I hate to say it, but 9/11 was kind of it was a party pooper. And, especially in New York, it's like everything's a bank, everything's financialized. People, you struggle to get people to stay out late. This is supposed to be the city that never sleeps, but I don't feel that way. It's just the city that always works. Everybody's just working constantly. So it's definitely sleep deprived. If it's the city that never sleeps, it's definitely tired as fuck. And I don't feel like people do as much cocaine as they used to. That's the vibe that I get. Obviously, I'm not around that, but like, that's what powered the kind of 80s or whatever, I guess. And it was like, there was still a leisure aspect. Now the only people that can afford to do that here are rich. But like I said, that's the story everywhere. They're tightening the kind of financial bootstraps, and I want to come to LA. I mean, I got to come to LA to visit. It's time for me to, I need to touch base in LA and do like some kind of event. Get my books out there and just kind of, I want to do some stand-up comedy. I'm going to do some stand-up comedy sets. That's my new thing. I've found my, I hate to say it, but it's not really stand-up comedy. It's not really, it's just talking. I just like, but also, I don't know, a sort of ostentatious kind of performance and things. And weaving all these things together. Um, with Wavetable, with System Lord, there was always kind of a comedy. Everything I've always done is just like I can't. It's just that's how I process things in a weird way. So I want to check out the scene in L.A. actually, and of course to just touch base with poetry stuff and do some open mics out there. And just, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to do it while it's cold. Now it's like starting to get like springtime and nice in New York. So I got to be here for the flowers and the trees and the buds. I mean, that really is the prime time. New York prime time is like April, May, June, into like maybe the 4th of July is kind of where it gets gnarly. And then kind of like September, October, November, December. Those are like the times. You know, if you could, I feel like if you could be seasonal between the two, you know, like you're in New York, like autumn, spring, and then you might use you might use LA like it's upstate or something. Like you do summer there or you do January, February. I feel like second half of May. Cool. All right. Awesome. Nice. Well, hit me up. We'll have to hang out or something. Let me know if you're doing any gigs, or you should come out to the open mic if you want. It's a fun time. Trying to set more stuff up, trying to become, I just feel like this is my avenue to becoming a professional entertainer. You know, like, I don't think the right thing to do would be to go get a job. And I don't even think colleges are going to take me, to be honest. The college thing is not for me. I mean, I could maybe teach like a literature class or something, but like, I really think they want to modify people's writing and make it like a certain way with these writing programs. That's what I've seen. It's like, it's kind of a consensus, like these workshops and stuff are kind of a consensus, like YouTube is my university. You know, people can take my classes for free on YouTube, and the open mic is like a live university of show business. That's the goal. I would be like a community college professor. The thing is, I just don't know, yeah, the MFA programs, I would get like maybe a PhD. If I could get a PhD in like, I don't know, Emily Dickinson or something. Maybe that's, I would have to write the fucking program, to be honest. It's like there's a whole curriculum that these people are not really understanding. The new American poetry is really what they should be teaching. You know, they should be teaching, and they are like teaching like, now if you go to fucking Bard or something, right, exactly. Dr. Proctor, PhD of English literature, the humanities. The humanities are dying, though. Apparently, there's half enrollment. The enrollment in the humanities is halved. But, you know, if you go to fucking Bard and shit, they teach you about the most cutting edge stuff. That's what feels classist about it to me, is like the avant-garde poetics or the avant-garde style is only available to people that go to the best universities. And that's rich people for the most part, or people that get scholarships, I guess. But like, I've been on the peripheral. The only reason I was able to sort of, you know, worm my way into like these avenues and channels of like perception or aesthetics or whatever is just by being in New York and sort of being close to it. Going to Poet's House, to be honest. Going to Poet's House probably had more influence. And just like the bookstores, you know, like I found fucking Paul Blackburn halfway down the coast at Human Relations on the dollar rack in like 2015. I didn't even know what it was. I just bought it. And then 5 years later, I figured out, oh, fucking Paul Blackburn. Wow, this is like this deep rooted avant garde poetics in New York that, you know, it's somewhat esoteric knowledge. It's not what they're teaching. Even if you go to an MFA program, they're going to teach you fucking like Charles Wright or like fucking, you know, some kind of milquetoast, middle of the road. It's not going to be some kind of progressive. One of the things we're talking about, I'm in a workshop with Edmund Berrigan right now, every Tuesday. And one of the things we talk about is Sun Ra, actually. He's really into Sun Ra. He has these Sun Ra poetry books. There's this one called The Science Fiction Poetry of Sun Ra. And so we're talking about this poet, Will Alexander, who's in LA. And one of the aspects of Will Alexander's poetry that's really interesting is there's all this kind of like science and like it's almost like cosmic and like it's kind of he really is kind of writing his own aesthetics. He's not really a part of any school. And so I'm just like, where's Will Alexander getting all this kind of like, you know, cosmic kind of like scientific. He's talking about the universe and like molecules and fucking like you know, a lot of the language and terminology he uses. It's not really from like science, you know, Scientific American or something. It's like, where's he getting this stuff? And it's like Sun Ra, you know, that's the kind of, you know, space is the place, right? Like Afrofuturism, I guess, is one of the genre terms. And you know, a lot of the fucking prophetic style or whatever, I guess, comes from those places. Samuel R. Delany, you know, science fiction, I guess. Umbra poets. If you go to a good university, they'll teach you about this stuff. You know, if you go to Bard or if you go to Pratt, or I don't even, you know, I don't even know if the new school is teaching this, to be honest. I suppose they probably are. To some degree, the new school, I feel like kind of, well, I don't know. But like, they're not teaching at the Ohio State University. That's for damn sure. At least, maybe they are. Maybe there's some class you can take where you learn that. I guess the trend is to be super progressive now. So they probably are they are like uprooting the canon and things like that in a way that's good. But, you know, in your typical undergrad class, you're probably reading old, dusty kind of stuff maybe. Or new, dusty stuff. Like, that's what we read in the workshop I was in. The kind of big Academy of American Poets, people who make it into those anthologies and stuff. You know, but there's a whole kind of outlaw or outrider tradition, and I would say it is political, and that's why they kind of keep it in this ghetto of literature or something. They don't really want this working class message at the table. Certain authors might be invited to the Guggenheim or to the rich people feast or whatever, but overall, the kind of street gutter language kind of stays there. And to be honest, a lot of it lives at open mics. If you go to open mics or like readings in fucking libraries, shit like that, that's where the community voice is. That's where the folk music is. That's where the voice of the people is. To me, that's more important. We don't want to be... Yeah, I would love to come to LA, actually. I'm couch surfing right now. So I'm in Midwood, Brooklyn. Oh my God. Let's skip past this part. Yeah, and there's just like tons of poetry business that needs to be conducted on the West Coast. And the you know, I'd like to spread, I mean, because what is nice about the last few months in the last couple years or whatever is after the kind of hard era politically. Before that, it does feel like, especially having an actual venue. I mean, I've wanted to do a weekly show in a venue in New York. You know, we were trying to do that with System Lord or with Wavetable. Like, that was the goal, was to get a weekly show where we're like the band in residence and we play for 4 hours or whatever. And so having a venue, especially someplace that's as great as KGB, that's just like in the middle of everything, is perfect kind of ambiance and like technical, and just like the people are super cool. The bartenders are amazing. They're artists, they're writers. The crowd was already going there, you know, like for literary minded people, they probably know what KGB is, and they probably have been there for a reading, and they might even just go. It was already kind of a scene, you know. There were already open mics there. Ugly Duckling Press has readings there. You know, Wonder Press has readings there. All these cool kind of like downtown, like Dime Square people want to read at KGB. They read there. Fucking Rachel Rabbit White reads there, or Cobra Snake. I went to this one fucking reading in the Red Room where like Cobra Snake was taking pictures, and it was like all these it people of like post-pandemic New York, where it's Annie Hamilton and that Matt Starr guy, people from the Drift magazine, this kind of new downtown culture, which, to be honest, it was just there for the taking, and a lot of it is not actually that good. I don't know. Me, you know, with the open mic, it's like I can bring in an avant-garde style, and do basically what I want to do. But it's like, because I'm kind of like the proctor or the facilitator of this event, I can sort of be the vibe leader. And so if people come into that, they're going to accept the terms of that, rather than me going into somebody else's open mic and being like, whoa, who the fuck is this crazy person who's like animated and reading this weird poetry that, like, does this make sense, or what the fuck is this? You know, to be honest, I think I am good at what I do. And people understand what I do. And it's like, it's these establishment poets that are keeping me out, man. I'm not a part of that club. You know what I mean? I don't publish I can't publish in those magazines. I don't go to those universities. I'm not an MFA. I'm not like, you know, so it's like, but when I read to people in person, you know, it usually works. And so with this open mic, it's like I finally get a chance to actually like show people, hey, here is an idea and an attitude about performance and about doing an event. Everybody gets to talk. Everybody is supported. There's enthusiasm. There's positive reaction. But it's not necessarily, we're not trying to like baby people. It's not about like, you know, overly cradling people, or like being enthusiastic about stuff that like is bad or something. I mean, it's more about, most of the acts are good, to be honest. And so it's not disingenuous to be supportive. And if you get a synergy of a lot of talent, I mean, it's New York City. There's tons and tons and tons of talented people with great ideas. Yeah, you know, the thing that was frustrating is not being able to be in those positions of leadership. You know, like having to go on at 2 a.m. when there's nobody there on somebody else's open mic, or play at Bohemian Grove after everybody has freaking left and like nobody sees your band ever. You know, like the open mic is not any different than the parties. The portal parties, the last resort parties, the Beyond Baroque thing, the Muchmore's thing, the sludge parties, it's all one thing. It's just doing it in a public venue, and especially a venue that already has kind of like a platform and uh kind of like an insider reputation, which works for it. People want to read at KGB because of its clout. But it's a cool place though. It's one of the last cool places, to be honest. And I think what has been going on there over the last few years has been really exciting, where you have all these young writers booking readings, doing the open mic, taking things into their own hands, which, like, we've been dominated by boomer culture and by older people who have been in control for a long time. And, that's fine. But, like, it is frustrating, the delayed release. It's, the boomers got to take over the culture when they were like fucking teenagers, basically, because of rock and roll and the way that they were just like spoiled by all of the media and everything being aimed at them. With us, it was like it was still aimed at them. And so we've still been kind of living in their fucking, like, aren't they so great? Like, oh, isn't Eileen Miles so great? Like, Eileen Miles is 70 years old. Like, nothing against Eileen Miles. Like, obviously Eileen Miles is a genius and the greatest poet alive, but like, they're not necessarily the voice of 20-year-olds. Like, that's not how it should be. Like, the 20-year-olds should speak for themselves. And in fact, all of the 20-year-olds and the boomers told their parents to go fuck themselves. That was the whole thing. I hope I die before I get old. And then they all got old. And they're still acting like teenagers. In a way that's like, I miss Sarah. I'm surrounded by psychos. I'm surrounded by fucking narcissistic sociopaths, which is fine. That's show business. I love show business. I'm in it to win it. I was born to be in show business. And poetry is the lowest form of show business, and I tried to make it work, and I am making it work. The thing is, we are going to take poetry, like, big time. It's an avenue. I mean, the Beatles, fucking John Lennon, his book came out in March 1964. It was a book of poems, right? In his own right is a book of poems. I get the sense that a lot of the Beatles stuff grew, and a lot of the rock and roll stuff grew out of poetry. And there could still be a popular appreciation of poetry. It's just the poetry kind of alienates people by its kind of academic unavailability. It's emotional unavailability. And it's just boring. It's just boring. I think the energy is important. People think that I'm like crazy, or like I go nuts on stage, and everybody's got an opinion, about how you should do things. I'm learning to hone it a little bit more, but what they don't understand is it's about energy, right? Like, the energy is kind of important, and it's, for better or for worse, it's kind of like the foremost thing that it's usually what people remark on, but I think people need it. I mean, I think people need energy. We live in such a lethargic, like, phone, screen, like, culture, sitting, divorced from our bodies, typing. And a lot of boomer culture is like, worship me, I'm a rock god. You're the audience, I'm the, like, genius, technical virtuoso. buy my CD. I'm platinum. I sold 50 million albums. That's like corporate. You know, Phil Collins is like Microsoft. And so bringing energy and giving people stage time is a way of enabling individuals to take action in their own lives and connecting them to some kind of feeling of being alive by being like maybe obnoxious about it. I don't know. It's poetry. It's supposed to be uninhibited. It's supposed to be free and naked and alive. And that's the thing that I'm trying to protect in my work. You know, it does, you know, like plants can be pruned, but there is like a wildness, right? I was talking about this earlier, to the growth that is kind of important, and allowing, you know, like allowing a tree to find its way into its shape, I feel like is more beautiful than cutting its limbs off if they're getting in the way of your fence or whatever, or like tying it to itself to get it to grow a certain, you know, like this is what I feel like MFA programs are doing. They're neocons. They're creating business people. They're creating employees of literature, people who can sell readable, trite things that are just going to uphold the status quo. It's no different than TV shows. It's no different than commercials. They're advertisements for the status quo. I mean, the status quo has become this sort of like political, like, I mean, at least in the published industry over the last few years, it's been about like, whatever. I won't get into that, but like, it's still something that's mandated to us by like privileged elites, the international plutocracy, and the jet set private flying private people who went to Wesleyan, not people from the cornfields, right? Like Theodore Dreiser or Willa Cather, all those authors from like the early 20th century were all from like fucking Nebraska and like the middle of the country and shit. Like Sherwood Anderson, they were just people that like moved to New York. They got jobs as newspaper writers, and like that was their apprenticeship. Now all the newspaper writers are children of the international plutocracy. All the people who work for the New York Times are already rich. It's not a meritocracy. It's not it's the same kind of social clubs. Just it's nepo babies. Everything is nepo babies. And that's why I am a child of open mics. Because it feels like the place where just like you do your thing, and I you know, like I will take people's like constructive criticism or like feedback. I'll definitely take people's feedback, but like it also depends who it is and how long they've thought about what I'm doing. You know, if somebody just comes in and they go, "Wow, this guy's crazy. He's off the wall." They don't really they're not familiar with my work. That is just something I do on stage that really developed because of nervousness more than anything. But also just like I do feel like we all have an energy in us that is like a part of who we are. It's our vibe or whatever. It's the frequency we vibrate at. And like I if I turn it up all the way, if I turn up what I'm doing to 11, and generally I have to, because if I don't do that, then people are not impressed. And so if I turn it on, I have to be big, and that's just that's my energy. My energy is like this big, kind of like childish, cartoonish, running around the room and yelling or something. That I don't know why. That's just who I am. To deny that is what I try to do at poetry readings basically until like last year. I did a little bit of it here and there, you know, but it would scare people. So I generally, that's one reason why I did music, because in the music you can kind of hide, and it's a rock and roll energy, to be honest, if you want to call it that. Like, you know, my parents, my dad's a musician, my mom is a rock and roll person through and through. And my grandpa, who recently passed away, like, he had that same energy. He had this kind of like high throttle, you know, like, let's go, let's vroom, let's move it. It was kind of like the mid-century, you know. It's like, it feels like Little Richard or something, you know, those cars from the 50s. And like, my mom has that energy, and I have that energy. And so like, it with audiences, it is like the law of thermodynamics or whatever. Energy is transferred, you know? No energy necessarily is created or destroyed, although maybe that's changing with these fusion they're creating. But like, we're creating fusion of entertainment. We're creating fusion of performance, where it's like, I know that if I pump out Nepo babies, I know that as the host or whatever, I have to guide the audience and lead them through the experience. And my experiences with audiences definitely are like, if you give out tons of energy, right, it comes back to you, or it's a way of waking them up. It's a Monday. These open mics are on Monday. Everybody's been at work. They got to work the next day. I got to come in there like fucking human espresso and just shake everybody awake. One of the quotes I read when I was a kid, reading about I wanted to be like a film director, comedian, like Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton or Woody Allen. Those were like my heroes, and like the people that I saw myself as an adult. I was gonna like make movies and like be in the movies, and like I'd have like a character, and like I'd make like autobiographical sort of comedy, I guess, but like good like, you know, art film comedies. And that's sort of what I do, actually, in my own kind of DIY garage band zine, no budget, poor person. You know, it is emphatically poor. My work is emphatically poor. That's like at the core and at the forefront of my message. And it's not about being poor. Like, I want to get rich. But it's about, anybody can do this. You take the materials that you have. You don't need money, right? But anyway, there was this Charlie Chaplin quote. They asked him what audiences wanted or something. Or what do they look for in a performer? What do you attribute your, what do you have? And he said, charm and energy. Charm and energy. Because that's what most audiences lack. Is what he said. And granted, he was a snobby person in his real life, I suppose. But his movies are sort of about being poor. And he was kind of an iconic figure to people all over the world as sort of this immigrant tramp. You know, he had to use his imagination, his ingenuity, his charm, and his energy, because he was this kind of street. People can relate to that character because it's like Aladdin or something. It's like he's this street urchin, kind of catch as catch can, making his way by his wits. And he's a sort of social adventurer. He's
he's the master of his own day. He wakes up and he does his thing, and his life is about beauty and poetry and love and the outdoors, being out in the sunshine. You know, all of those early Charlie Chaplin movies are in some park or something. But charm and energy, I don't know. That bringing energy to people, it is what they need, actually. You know, now more than ever, these people that are working themselves to death to pay their rent, or, you know, maybe they have a remote job, I guess, or something. Like, I don't want to do that. You know, I want to be a professional entertainer. And I feel like a carny, or, you know, like I feel like I can't do that. I have to, this is what I'm good at, actually. You know, this being like an event planner. I'm in the event planning industry. And I have been. I was a wedding DJ and master of ceremonies, okay? And so I'm just trying to figure out how to build that out. And I think good hosts are in short supply. I mean, look at I want Colbert's job. That's my big goal. I want that theater and I want that job. I think Colbert is tired. He's tired. I think you know, the millennials are actually the biggest demographic by population because we're the children of the boomers. They had a lot of babies and they took care of us. So when the boomers die, you know, we don't necessarily want the boomers to die, but when they do, there's going to be a huge transfer of wealth to the millennials. And so finally we'll be in the driver's seat, and there will be a lot of, you know, hopefully fucking jobs for us as entertainers. You know, because that's basically what the boomers spent their money on their whole life, was like partying and concerts and going to see the Rolling Stones. And all right, let's see, luxury boxes. Let's try this one. I don't know if I want to go back this far in time. There's my apartment. R.I.P. Let's try this one. Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, so I'm going to do 2 hours. I haven't live streamed in a while, so forgive me if I'm out of practice. You know, yeah, I don't know. We have to make our own money and careers and all that, and maybe I feel more qualified for those type of jobs, I guess, in things. You know, like I would love to be a professor, but I don't know. I mean, when I'm in workshops and stuff, I do feel like that energy is still there, in that kind of like show business personality or something. You know, like the things that like work on stage, people think you're weird in life. You know, if you're always on, people just think, oh, this guy needs to just chill, you know, and just like relax. But if you're always on, it's like you should get on stage, because then you'll get paid, you know. Like in your life you might be clumsy, like, or you know, a lot of my childhood was about like physical comedy. That's something I'm like rediscovering, was like coordination, you know, living in your body, inhabiting your body, and like, especially being on stage, being a poet on stage. You know, a lot of poetry, you're really not connected with your body at all. It's the most like passive, inert like way to be on stage. You're just reading off your phone, and that's fine for the real poets or whatever. But like, I mean, that's one reason why it was so fun playing with you is it was like now I could use my body and it wouldn't seem insane. You know, if there's somebody playing music with me, suddenly it becomes like this kind of musical experience. But also, like, there is a marriage between music and like reading that really is not that explored anymore. And the link between jazz and poetry, I think, is hugely important, and also just sort of gets like overlooked, or a lot of the poetry that is sanctioned by workshops or institutions, I would say, is not improvisational or jazz poetry. It's revised, it's worked over, it's rewritten, it's finished. It's not of the street, it's not slang, it's not, I don't know. I mean, I guess partially it's an ego thing. Is like you don't necessarily, you get sensitive about people talking about your work. Like, as artists, I don't know what is the goal. The goal, I guess, is to. I think there are certain artists that like they're able to. If you're able to create like an emotional response, or like you want to make something that like people need, I guess, ideally, like with music, it does feel like the music that people used to make had a kind of memorability, and like uh it was something that like you needed, you wanted to listen to these songs because like they created their own desire for them. Whereas like now it's like, oh my god, I'm getting another fax, excuse me. We're here in the busy offices of Rockcore Enterprises here. Um, so if you're, you know, if you're able to create that in one person or two people or 10 people, they can mass produce that and sell that to everybody. You know, if you're able to make a video, but it's also just like, how do you make something that is going to appeal to 500,000 people on YouTube? You know, uh why does, you know, a handful of people watch my live stream instead of, you know, there doesn't seem to be an audience that's like, but as artists it's like, is that what craft does? Is that what revising does? That's the idea, is like if you have better craft, more people will like it, or more people will understand it, or more people will resonate with it. Is that what craft is? Is that why we do workshops? Is that why we go to school? Is that, you know, that was sort of my sense of it, was like, I have to learn how to make movies by reading books about it and learning like the rules of it. I have to learn how to do stand-up comedy by like taking classes from like UCB, or music, you know, you take lessons with, I guess, with the goal. But you know, technique doesn't always necessarily add up to appeal. uh like there is a discipline, and there is like a learning to becoming an artist, but I think art should just be like more integrated into our, like, our our lives and our sense of being and our sense of self, meaning like uh you know, people who are weaving baskets or blankets or making pottery or something were not necessarily, I mean, they were doing it because they were artists. There was a functionality to it as well, but it's like it was I guess in a certain way, inseparable from their habits and their needs. They needed pottery to drink from. They needed blankets to stay warm or whatever. Uh, to me, an artistic practice probably, even though I'm not making blankets, literally, I guess in a certain way, maybe these are blankets. They're blanket statements. They're blankets. We need blankets. I love blankets. Blankies, right? Everything's a blankie. And so, like, to me, it's more about putting those tools in people's hands and empowering everyone's hands. We're still in this society where it's like certain people have to be subjugated to be employees, and other people have free time or talent or leisure or money or resources to be artists, or they're special or something. All right. Thank you for watching, Sarah. Keep both hands on the wheel. Be safe. Be safe. Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Nice talking to you. Thank you for saying hello. Like, I like the idea of helping the natural impulse and what's already happening kind of into being, and guiding that into being something that is effective rather than going back later and fixing it. Or, now we're living in this world of digital manipulation and right, Photoshop and Pro Tools and the DAW, the digital audio workspace. Poetry is not quite that. But I suppose what is the equivalent AI, the AI thing is already kind of causing a revolution. Probably in all the creative industries, for the last 10 years or 15 years, a lot of millennials have been creatives, graphic designers. I was a videographer, copywriters, creatives. Is ChatGPT just going to do all of that shit now? Is AI going to design all of the flyers and all the images and all the graphic design, and ChatGPT will just write all the copy? It's going to put a lot of people out of work. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because that wealth is still being created. That wealth should just be redistributed evenly amongst everybody. It shouldn't just, we've made these jobs obsolete, so now we make more money, which is what will happen. Like, I was in Whole Foods the other day. They've got automated cashiers now, which they didn't for a long time. It's like, there's automation, there's AI, a lot. That's because most jobs, a job is some shit that somebody else doesn't want to do. That's why they pay you to do it. Most jobs are like menial physical labor. That's why they're called jobs, because you wouldn't do it if you weren't getting paid, because it sucks. Like, I'm not saying work is bad. Work is important. I work constantly. But I suppose an overarching theme here would be like the work. There's a lot of different kinds of work, and do the work you're meant to do. And, if we can automate menial labor, kind of slave labor jobs, and free people and liberate them, that's good. We're liberating people, liberating them to be artists, to be thinkers, to be experiencers. They can still work. It's plenty of work just taking care of yourself and your friends and your house and your community and feeding yourself. And there's still work that needs to be done, but a lot of it will be automated. And so let people paint or make movies or live stream themselves playing video games, whatever the fuck they do. Let them be artists, uh, or whatever they want to do. Um, I don't think that AI is going to replace like poets. It might replace copywriters, newspaper writers, novelists, maybe even like screenwriters. Poetry is an expression of the individual, and first of all, it's already kind of culturally not popular, let's say. But it's like what's important is not necessarily, although it is important reading other people's poetry, and like, poets do give us like what we need to understand the world, but like it's equally important that people just write it. And to be honest, I don't think AI can imitate. I don't think it can imitate what I do. It could imitate it, but my poetry is so rooted in my personal experience. AI cannot have a personal experience. Like I walk through the world, I hear something, I see a tree, I see an ad. Maybe my phone could go through the day like taking a little thing from an ad, or snipping something from something somebody says on the train, or something the camera saw and turn it into some kind of visual. Maybe in that sense the AI could imitate my style, but it's so much about like what's really happening in the world, and like news things, incidental kind of details, that like it's not like some vague subject. It's not like I'm writing like sonnets about general themes or something. It's about my personal experience and the imitation of human consciousness. It's not there's definitely like an aesthetic style that like the AI could like imitate. In fact, a lot of my style was an imitation of AI, to be honest. A little over 10 years ago, there was this site, Poetweet, which would turn your Twitter profile into poems. It would turn your tweets into poems through AI. You would put in your Twitter handle, and it would spit out sonnets. But the problem was, at the time, the AI was so disjointed that it couldn't really put a coherent sentence together, which I thought was actually a really profound effect. It created these unbelievable non sequiturs that were just like explosive. And so I thought, well, that's what AI sounds like. That's the future. That's the sound of the future. And to be honest, it was like a cut up. It created these subconscious connections that you would never make in person, that like just like totally blew your mind. And so I just thought, well, if AI can do that, then I can do that. And so I started to, but obviously it was also reading a lot of stuff that did that kind of thing. Whether it's Berrigan or, Apollinaire. Apollinaire is cut up, basically, or like disjointed, non sequitur, just picking up incidental details. That poem, Lundi Rue Christine, is like very disjointed and incidental and rooted in his experience, and basically what I do. That poem is basically what I do, which is just like, I'm a sponge, I'm a receiver, certain things stick, and I write them down in a way to sort of like in miniature include the totality of our experience. That's what I try to do. But through fragmentariness, a fragmentation collage, not unlike, I guess, probably The Wasteland, being another example of that. Sort of a collage of quotes and sort of hyperlinks of text throughout history. But I'm just applying that to my own kind of like local perceptions. Here's what I see, here's what I hear. And I don't necessarily think AI could, because it would have to have an experience. The work is also durational in that it occurs over time throughout the day. I might write one line down first thing in the morning because I thought of it, when I woke up, and then I might not write another thing until 6 p.m. or something because I think of another line. It's like that's a little bit, and the poem is also about that passage of time and those moments of time. It's not about like the concept of time. It's not like a poem, I would be interested to see if AI could imitate what I do, could replace me. Let's see AI host the fucking open mic, okay? It's not gonna happen. I mean, I think that's one reason that's important about doing it, is it's in person and it's a gathering of human beings performing live. But it's also, we don't necessarily want to not incorporate these spaces. This is why I'm on YouTube. This is why I film it. It's important to do it in person and to have that live experience in the room with all those people, even in spite of the fact that our lives are increasingly dominated by technology and screens and whatnot. But also, I'll curate different videos for next time. I'll curate like a list of, or like a playlist of cool topical shit for the next live stream. But for now, I'm just replaying my recent memories. AI could definitely edit my videos for me. I would love it if I could just dump my videos in and I had some kind of AI that just like did it automatically. But so posting it on YouTube and moving into that space, I'm not even opposed to live streaming it. I would live stream the open mic every week. But doing it in person is important. And moving into one thing that I do want to talk about, we don't want to let online dominate, even though it does. I don't think we have a choice. Emails and online eBay. It's all eBay now. Everything is eBay. Meaning the market is everywhere. And it's not about being in person necessarily, actually. That's what I found. I learned what I learned about, like I said, avant-garde poetics or aesthetics by being in person in New York City, by being around the Poetry Project, by going to Poets House, by going to bookstores, and by tracing these things, by tracing them painstakingly. One book mentions another book. It took me years to find all this stuff. It wasn't like a professor just handed me a syllabus and I had no idea who these people were. I got Greg Master's book because I had seen that he had written a book with Bernadette Mayer. And then I met him in person, and he's an amazing human being, one of my favorite people, one of my best friends. I love Greg Masters. Great guy. Great poet. But I wasn't buying all this shit on eBay. You know what I mean? I didn't just get on eBay and type in Ted Berrigan and buy all of the fucking Mimeo magazines that are probably on there. But, to be honest, that's where the world is. You know what I mean? Like, your capability is just way higher for that type of thing on the internet. But that's not what we're trying to do, okay? We're making history, not studying it. As as non-boomers, we're often put in this position where it's like we're just supposed to subjugate ourselves. Oh, Patty Smith. Patty Smith is 75 fucking years old. You know, like, good for Patty Smith, but like, how about giving somebody new a chance? You know, Patty Smith has an Instagram book. Let a young person put out a fucking Instagram book. Like, let's do what we can to foster young artists and to help young artists and to help people find themselves rather than making them work 80 hours a week till they're just like zombified and all they want to do is binge watch. And if you're going to binge watch Scenes from a Life. The best show on TV. Going on 10 years of Scenes from a Life. 2014 will be the 10-year anniversary of Scenes from a Life. An experiment in memory and consciousness and digital technology and archiving and storage. And so we're making history, not studying it, okay? Let the other people make money off the institutions and the tourism and the blandification and the hagiography of the boomers that's suffocating young people. And let us just be the artists. Let us, you know, we have the Alive message. We're out here bringing it hard every week. We're trying as hard as we can to push it out there and make people give a shit and make people listen. And the energy is a big part of it, you know. John F. Kennedy was shot November 1963. The Beatles came in February 1964. 9/11 happened in 2001. What happened since? Things have just gotten increasingly doomed and grim. Something needs to come and just shake the culture awake. And it's not these people in fucking college who just want to eat in nice restaurants and want job security. It's revolutionaries like you out in the clubs, spouting your truth, digging deeper, trying to find what you really think, trying to find out what the fuck is going on, trying to just like define it, trying to help each other see what's happening and solidarity, organization. I'm going back to this in 2018 or 19 or whatever. This will be a good way to end. Self-empowerment, applying your ideas. You know, the stage is as good a place as any to be political. In fact, maybe it's a better one. What I try to do with my work is like a show don't tell thing, right? Where it's like the work, there's an underlying politics to it. I don't really want to get on stage necessarily and say anybody has to think any particular way, although I will voice opinions about things. I will do that. But it's also a conversation, and rather than tell people what they should think or do a show that's like explicitly political, right? If I did a show that was like, and that's good too. I'm not saying that's not good too. I've done chapbooks like, right, Taking It to the Streets. That chapbook was like political. And all of my work is political, and I've talked about politics a lot throughout my work. I've always given a fuck. Most people don't actually. Most people would rather not talk about politics, right? But I also don't want to be like pushing on anybody or like they have to find their own conclusions, right? It's one of these like teach a person to fish things. And so by doing the open mic, you're teaching people to fish rather than just giving them fish. Meaning, like, they come out, they get better. They're not just like fans, they're not just audience members, they're not just subjugated to some kind of passive consumer role, which is what we're expected to be. We're expected to just buy things, watch things, listen to things, not to have agency, not to connect to our own ideas, to our own. And that is the difference. You know, by teaching somebody to fish, you're teaching them to be active and to get on their feet and to put themselves on the line. And it also, I think, gives people a greater sense of being alive, actually, to be on stage at all. For certain people. I mean, right, it's everybody's greatest fear is public speaking. Which I think, to be honest, is maybe one of the last natural thresholds. You know, the stage might be one of the last meritocracies and one of the last fair places to be judged, because, like, a lot of people will not get on it just because it's scary. And if you succeed, it's because it worked. The audience liked you and they want more. Once again, so it's up to you to make something that works. And being in front of 40 or 50 or 60 people you don't get a chance to do that often, to be honest. At least I haven't as a performer. Usually I'm performing to like 10 people or less. 2018. That was me in my Allen Ginsberg phase. It was really more of a John Berryman beard. I was trying to do a John Berryman kind of, thing. It was a Dream Songs beard. But yeah, so like my pamphlets, right? This is not necessarily overtly political in any, the whole thing isn't just like some guilt trip that's sad, but the way that I do it, I drew the fucking cover, I printed out on my printer that cost $90 that I brought with stimulus money from the pandemic from Walmart on the internet. And we repurposed some of my mom's office supplies, some staples and things. And it's just a way of saying, hey, like, I have a book, I am real, I'm valid, I exist. It's no budget, anybody can do this. Anybody with a printer can throw 20, 30 pages into a Word doc and print out a pamphlet, fold it over and staple it, and have their own book all of a sudden. And it really functions pretty well, you know what I mean, as a book. And so, is that political? I mean, it's meant to be. It's meant to be, here's something poor people can do as a way of giving themselves power. Here's, maybe I can't buy an audience. Maybe I'm not an influencer. Maybe I'm not a rich person's kid or a Nepo baby. But I'm as valid. Maybe I didn't go to Bard or Columbia. But I think my ideas are as good as anybody's out there, and probably better, actually. And that's why people don't really get what I'm doing. Or it's like, not popular or something. But the idea is any poor person with $100, if they can get $100 together, they can become a publisher and a printing press. And that's not that this country is the greatest thing in the world, but free speech, free press, First Amendment, the press and the free press is one of the essential parts of this fucking country. And it's crazy over the past 30 fucking years, well, really 20, that the entire Fifth Estate has basically been vaporized by the internet. The press does not exist like it did 30 years ago. The Fifth Estate, which is very important for democracy to have a strong, I mean, that was one of the things Trump went after more than anything was the fake news. We all remember that. The fake news media. And so I am a part of the fake news media. And this YouTube and the pamphlets are really like they're arms of the multinational conglomerate that is Rotcore and Scenes from a Life and Easy Paradise and all the trademarks and all the intellectual properties of Matt Proctor. There's Jabril's Room in the Slooge, 2018. Legendary. Like, there is no press, so we have to be the press. We have to tell the truth. We have to say what's going on. We have to film it. We have to put it on TV. We have to show our... It's a level playing field to some degree. I mean, it's not level because my fucking ass is shadow banned. I get no views, but theoretically, it's a level playing field. Theoretically, everybody has a voice and could go viral and be a player and be a part of the conversation. But I don't know. Having tangible embodiment of your work as a writer, I do think is important. I love doing the readings, but if I didn't film the open mic, to be honest, it's very important that I film it, actually. If it just came and went, it would be beautiful and amazing and maybe even more poetic and better and more, maybe that's, but for me, filming it is publishing and making a way of making it permanent. And, like the first 10 years of Johnny Carson's shows got thrown in a landfill. Like, that's horrible. That's a loss for culture. And so the more we can archive and collect things and stuff, like that's a capability we have now because of the technology. And so, on the one hand, print is dead and vanishing and becoming actually cost prohibitive. Printer ink is one of the most expensive liquids in the world. I think it's more expensive than human blood. Printer ink. And paper, obviously, is trees. And so, in a certain way, you don't really need to fucking print anything anymore. And to be honest, probably within my lifetime, I imagine the publishing thing will be way wound down. I imagine there will be less books, which is kind of fucked up to think about, but that is one reason why I try to migrate as much literary content as I can, including this, to YouTube and to video, because that to me is the most suitable way to experience literature that's not reading a book. I would rather listen to an audiobook or hear like a talk or see a reading on YouTube than read a Kindle. I do not want to read a Kindle. I don't want to read an electronic book. Give me a real book, or let's move the literature or the poetry on, I have a playlist called video literature. That's kind of my big hypothesis. What I'm trying to do with my show and these live streams are really, they're journals, but they're a literary form. I am trying to experiment with in the tradition of David Anton talk pieces and various tape recording kind of expository Spalding Gray stand-up comedy podcasts. But yeah, so my show is really sort of supposed to be a novel on video. That's also a film, that's also a poem, that's also da 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 da. And just looking back through time, here we are. Well, thank you for watching the video literature. Check out some of the other stuff. Poets, start vlogging. Ashley's vlogging. Spiral Jetty has incredible vlogs. Get on YouTube. The more you're on, it's if you can make print books, definitely do it. Make zines, right? Zine is punk culture. It's DIY culture. John Porcellino, King Cat Comics, was a big the Samizdat, the kind of underground civilian pamphlet exchanged hands through firsthand contact. I give you my book, and you take it, and maybe, there's information about it, secret information, esoteric knowledge. It has a more profound effect in person for some reason. But when people are turned on in person, usually they get into the online stuff. I'd like to make my stuff a little more successful online, like I was saying, to make it work for people. But when people, come to the open mic or come in contact with it in person, when they get the book at a reading or something, then it might kind of hook them into. Anyway, I guess I didn't really talk about my personal life at all, but Too Much Blood. Just listen to Too Much Blood by the Rolling Stones. That's all I have to say. I'm going to put it on right now. Thank you for watching. I'm going to work tonight. We will talk to you soon. There I am, 2018. Look at me. Jesus, I'm Christed out there. Look at me, my crown of golden laurels. All right. Have a great weekend.